Ooh, let's all, hey, Russ, some really great folks. Brian, I love to see y'all on here. Joe, thank y'all for signing up. I got some really interesting stuff for you today. I want to tell you about it. I wanted to talk real quick about dyno testing and cam timing, and I know I rant, and I know you guys are tired of hearing about it. So I've studied it pretty hard. I've asked around to some industry experts and some fuel injection experts, and I understand a little bit more about it. There are several reasons why they may ask for your cam timing in some tunes. One would be a little bit CYA so that they can look like they're trying maybe to do a good job with the EPA certification, because that matters. The overlap that we have with intake valves opening too soon and exhaust valves closing too late create some low RPM bad runs, and it has to be tuned really good down low and real part throttle. It's not a, I just want you guys to know it has nothing to do with me not wanting to share my cam timing. And there was a whole year, and I got to admit it, it was a whole year, 12 months, that I didn't want to share the cam timing, because I look at the internet for years and I see what cam sells. The one that's got this closing, it's got this opening, it has this lobe center, it has this lobe this, and it has this lobe separation, and all these numbers that the internet approved. And if your camshaft was not in this box, if your camshaft wasn't in this box, then everybody would say it's no good. Because if all the cams were made exactly the same, if all of them had exactly the right intake closing, and they all had exactly the right exhaust opening, and they had the same amount of overlap, then they would all be the same, except for the rate of acceleration, the deacceleration, and all the things that we don't know a lot about. Makes camshafts very, very complicated. But on the internet, we know lobe centers, we know lift, we know intake opening, we know exhaust closing and exhaust opening, and we know intake opening. And we know these numbers from studying and from being a student of the game. But I want to tell you, at the end of the day, the engine has to be tuned to where it has exactly the right ignition timing, and I'll tell you about that, and it has the right amount of air fuel at every throttle, idle, 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and at every speed, every RPM, every load with two people on it going up a hill, coasting down a hill. All of those numbers, there's hundreds of those numbers, have to be dead nuts right for us to have the right tune. Now, there's another reason I think they're doing this, is to get all the cams cataloged in all the canned maps. Like if you call PowerVision and you say, I have this opening and this closing, and I have this cubic inches and this fuel injection, and I have this pipe, your camshaft should be in this file. I mean, your tune should be in this file. And they have a file of tunes, and I think it's called tunes. It's called Cam Data Cruncher. I know you guys read about it, know about it, but look, an old school guy, we didn't have EFI, we didn't have fuel injection. We had to make it tune right, and I learned the hard way coming in from the bottom up. I'm not doing a trickle down from TTS or PowerVision or any of those down. I'm doing start at the ground, and I'm working my way up. And I share, this is very important, I'm sharing what I think I know, and I don't know everything. But after doing it every day for my day job, I mean, I bought underwear and socks. This is my Rooster socks here. My friend on here, Ron Smith, they call him Rooster. Anyway, I got Rooster socks. Julie gave me this cool shirt, and some of you might have seen it, but anyway, that's another story. But I wanted to tell you that everything I ever had in my life is based on what I've learned in the motorsports industry. My baby's underwear and food for the house, making house payments, cars, tires, everything I ever bought has been based on my passion and my job in motorsports industry. So it wasn't a hobby for me. It was. When I was a teenager, it was a hobby, but I was able to make it into a job. And I'm going to tell you some stuff that I think I learned. I want to show you some stuff that I think I know based on decades and decades of running over parts and burning up parts. And I'm not being cocky about it. I'm not being none of that. I want to share what I think I know, and I'll get some great feedback from you guys. Please listen to me. You're leading. Give me some feedback. Tell me what you'd learned, what you'd like to know more about, and I got some good feedback this past week, and I want to share more with you. Tech Talk 126, engaged. Here we go. Mind the rattling noises while I adjust the camera. The trouble is not in your set. This is going to be a little bit changed here. Hang on tight. Here we come. Lining up. Here we go. Tech Talk number 126. We all had our Christmas behind us. New Year's coming. Let's engage in what the New Year's bringing us. Next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, how we can make 2022 a little better, giving some better information, and maybe how we think about what's going on. Giving you my opinions is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you anything that's the only way to think, but it's my way of thinking. I'm going to talk about a few things today that are confusing to many folks that I talk about, and that is why we need octane, what compression ratio is to us, and why we have so much compression ratio conversations and questions. You know, octane rating and compression ratios and spark knock and pre-ignition and pinging, P-I-N-G-I-N-G, pinging. Those are really misunderstood things that we talk about. We don't know. Hammerville, hey man, I did try to call you, and we will connect, my friend. Just know that. Soon. I know you. I see you on there. Just hang in there with me, man. We're coming. Okay. Let me tell you about a couple notes that I can expand on. One is right here. I wanted to write down about power. We don't add octane to our gasoline to make more power. We add octane to our gasoline because we make more power. Say that again. You're not going to get more power going from 91 octane to 110 octane. No. You have to leave 91 octane and go to 110 because you have more power. It's backwards. Octane does not give you power. This is how it works right here. Low octane makes a big bomb. High octane makes a smaller bomb. How can that be possible? And when I say bomb, I'm talking about the explosion in the combustion chamber. You know how it is, y'all. We draw the air and fuel in, we squeeze it tight, we light it, it goes bang, and it makes the piston go back down, and then we have to use the exhaust to push it out. And I also get fussed at for using the 4 strokes. And one guy said that I did 125 weeks talking about the 4 strokes of an engine. And he said, how many times can you talk about the 4 strokes of an engine? Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to try my best not to talk about the 4 strokes of the engine this time, but it's really hard to talk about how to make more power without talking about the intake stroke and the compression stroke and the power stroke and the exhaust stroke. Those are the ones that matter to me. And we have really made a great career out of focusing on those 720 degrees. A lot of folks don't know that intake's 180, the compression's 180, the power's 180, and the exhaust is 180, and they all add up to 720 degrees. And we all know that 1 revolution is 360, but in order for us to get all 4 strokes done, we have to do 720 degrees. Now, today, I'm going to try and explain what I think I know about heat, spark, load, power, low octane, high octane, and what all of this means with the octane ratings. Out in California, all over the world, thank you very much, Hammer. All over the world, hey Benjamin, that's a hero of mine right there. He knows what I'm talking about. So now I'm like preaching in the church, and the church is full of preachers. Good grief. That makes some of you guys can hang up and my pulse rate will go down. You know I'm kidding. Octane makes a lot of power, y'all. Really low octane gasoline is very volatile. It doesn't take much compression, much heat, and much advance on the spark or much load to have it self-combust. What we're looking for is controlled combustion. And we're going to do everything we can in our 4-stroke engine to control the combustion so that it happens when we want it to, so we can take advantage of the power that this fuel makes. Just know, on any given engine, let's say a 10-to-1 engine, and it runs great on 91 octane, if you were to pump some 120 or 110 or 100 octane in it, it's not going to make more power. Matter of fact, it might make a good bit less power, because gasoline octane ratings is a number that doesn't dictate power levels. It dictates its ability to oppress detonation. In other words, to reduce detonation. This has got 91% chance of not detonating. This one's got 120% chance of not detonating. I made that number up. But that's what octane could mean to you. Not how much power you have or how much power it will make. But let me back up just a hair. If you have a lot of horsepower, you can't run 91 octane because it will spark knock, it will detonate, it will ping, and therefore you need to go up in the octane rating. Now, the reason there's so many different ones, 91, 92, 87, I've seen some really low stuff, 89, 100, 105, 110, 120. Some gasoline, some of the most powerful gasoline I've ever used in the world makes between 100 and 110 octane. So octane is not its ability to make power. It's its ability to suppress detonation. And since I'm just a country boy from Georgia, sometimes I have a hard time thinking of exactly the right word. And I'm live, so bear with me. Hey, Kyle, Terry, man, it's great to see I see some smart people in here. That makes me nervous. I think I'm going to quit reading the names for a minute so I can think of what I'm trying to say. Because I'm not trying to be the smartest guy in the room. I'm just trying to tell you what I think I know. All right, so let's go over here. And let's look just real quick at what our combustion cylinder pressure curve would look like. I just drew it right off the top of my head. Doesn't mean anything other than let me use it as an example. This is crankshaft rotation, which is hard to imagine a straight line being in rotation. But if you start the spark here, when the piston's coming up to TDC and you light it at 20 degrees before TDC, you're going to get a rise in pressure when the cylinder is full of compressed gas and air, fuel and air. And you want it to make peak pressure after TDC and then continue to rotate the crankshaft all the way through bottom dead center. Now, if you light it at 30 degrees before top dead center instead of 20, this whole curve, when you have exactly the right amount of octane, detonation resistance, and move it over starting at 30, you can have peak pressure too soon and finish too soon. If you move it over to 40, which is 20 degrees timing too high, and you move this pressure curve over to go with it, you're going to see giant spikes, and it's going to have so much pressure before the piston gets to the top, it could blow the head gasket. It could blow the rod bearings, the wrist pins. It could break the piston. It could break the ring lands off the pistons. Man, these texts keep coming in, and I'm on Tech Talk Live, y'all. I can't do the phone right now. I know you don't know that, but I thought I'd say it. Now, what compression ratio do you need? That's a great question. So I did a little chart. This is based on what I understand about compression ratio. Now, I don't want anybody to get up on the tire. I don't want anybody to get up on the tire and get excited about this chart. But just look at it with me objectively for a moment and let's talk about it. These green blocks, this is the horsepower gain versus compression ratio versus percentage of power gain potential. Pull these numbers out of my mind. You can look up this and get some real math. Ben Strader on here is one of the best math people I know, and he can make all this stuff work perfect. But these are generalized numbers. This is percentage of gain. This is compression ratio. And I wanted to tell you that if you have your engine runs at 10 to 1 compression right now, and you bump it from 10 to 1 to 12 to 1 just without changing anything. But if it spark knocks, you got to add octane. And I'm not telling you to add octane if you don't need it, but listen to me. If you're almost rattling spark knock at 10 to 1 and you go to 11 to 1 or 12 to 1, you're going to spark knock a lot worse. So you got to turn the timing down. You're going to have to figure out how to cool the inlet charge, and you're going to have to figure out how to put some more octane in it. But if you're going to add compression ratio, you're going to make this power curve spike sooner, and that's why we need better gasoline to resist detonation. Now, if you go from 10 to 1, whatever power you got, 400, 200, 100, whatever you got, going from a 10 to 1 engine to 12 to 1 compression ratio, and you don't change anything but the compression ratio, you have a chance of picking up 2 to 3% power gain. 10 to 1 to 12 to 1. You have 2.5 to 3% potential power gain. All right? Now, think about this for a minute. Let's just slide over for a second. If you go from a 12-to-1 engine to 14-to-1, you have a chance. I want to move this up just a hair so you can see it better. There you go. Sorry about all the rattling. If you go from a 12-to-1 engine to a 14-to-1 engine, you will pick up less than 1% power gain. So, listen, all over the internet, you can look it up, you can do math. There's people out there to say 1 point of compression is worth 7%. Okay? If you were running it at 8-to-1 and you moved it to 9-to-1, you may pick up 7% horsepower increase. So that means if you have 100 horse at 8-to-1 and you put it in 9-to-1 and you'll pick up 7%, that means your 100 horse now will be 107 horsepower. But take that same engine that's running at 11-to-1 and you pump it up to 13-to-1, you're only going to gain 2%, not 7%. So this slope, what I'm trying to share with you, is as you increase compression, once you get it right, which right means it's somewhere in here, the rate of gain goes down. That's what this slope is. It's not that your percentage of horsepower goes down, it's the rate of gain goes down. In other words, 9-to-1 to 10-to-1, you can pick up 4.5 to 5% gain. But if you take this 10-to-1 engine and you go to 11-to-1, it's only going to get a 3.5% gain. On and on and on. And when you get down here to 14-to-1 and you bump it to 15-to-1, you're going to get 0.1% gain. Does that make any sense to y'all? And I see somebody ask me if this is based on 1-cylinder or 8-cylinder. It doesn't have anything to do with it. It's percent of gain. It's not horsepower. It's not 8 horsepower. If it's 1,000 horsepower V8 and you're going to pick up 1%, you're going to pick up 1 horsepower. 10 horsepower. If you pick up 10% with a 1,000 horsepower engine, that's 100 horsepower. It's just math. And like I said, there's some couple guys on here that's really good at math. But look, this is not percentage at every number. No. This is rate of gain. Rate of gain. At 9-to-1, from 8-to-1 to 9-to-1, you can pick up 7%. From 9-to-1 to 10-to-1, you can pick up 4.5%. From 10-to-1 to 11-to-1, you can gain 3.5%. From 11-to-1 to 12-to-1, you could pick up 2.5% gain. The higher you are and you add more compression, the less gain you get. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't confuse this, y'all, with George says you can get a 7% gain with 1 horsepower point. 1 compression ratio point. You can when you don't have enough. But when you have enough, you don't get much power increase for more. That's all I'm saying. You see, this one guy says 5% gain. Yes, you're right. Up to 11%, maybe. Yeah, like right here. It's actually, I got a little less than 1%. 5%. It's not, you can't round it to one number. People say, if I have 10-to-1 and I go to 11-to-1, I read on the internet, well, I'll pick up 7% power. And some people even tell you they pick up 7 horsepower. Well, is that 1 cylinder like Jerry said, or is that 8 cylinders? That would probably be not the percentage I'm talking about, because the percentage I'm talking about is the percent of gain. Did I say that enough? So if you went from 9.5 to 1, 9-to-1 to 15-to-1, is the gain the same rate? Well, it goes down tremendously from 9-to-1 to 15-to-1. So, but yes, you would. If you went from a 9-to-1 to 15-to-1, yeah, it would go up a lot. This rate of gain is what I'm talking about. I just wanted you to know that if you had enough and you doubled it, you're not going to double your horsepower. If you had enough and you went a little more, it's going to pick up a little more. If you don't have enough, going back over here, let's say 8-to-1. If you had 8-to-1 and you went to 9-to-1, you could gain 7% horsepower, which is a lot, just with compression ratio change. Now, let me go back over here and let's talk about, there's more to the story. There's intake valve closing. There's spark advance. There's cc's of shaving your head and getting smaller chambers, or cutting the head out and putting bigger domes, putting shallower valve pockets in. You can change the compression ratio in so many ways, and this is not an argument or a debate about the best way to change compression. No, I'm showing you that just going to more compression, the higher you add, the less rate of gain. All right, I beat that horse dead. So if you don't understand, we'll just go over it a little bit more. But I wanted to say, just by putting more, like if you got a motorcycle that runs really good, or a car or engine or anything, a single cylinder Briggs & Stratton, whatever you have, if it runs really great at 10 to 1, adding a lot of compression's not going to fix it unless you do everything it takes. Let me say one more thing. If you have 70 thousandths piston to head clearance and you got 9 to 1, and you leave it 70 thousandths piston to head and you go to 12 to 1, you're going to see less performance gain than you would if you move the deck heights to closer piston to head clearance. So a lot of this is given on how much power you'll gain if you start spark knocking, if you start abusing the gasoline or outrunning your octane rating. You're going to have to add octane to add compression. It's not a bolt-in deal. Hey, I got some pistons for sale. You can make 15 to 1 on your Milwaukee 8 today with 20 cc domes, plus 20 cc domes on a 90 cc chamber. That's going to make really high compression ratio. Do not try it if you don't have 100, 110, 120 octane. It won't do it. Now, let's go and talk about why. If you have gasoline and you heat it up, or you squeeze it, or you light the spark off too soon, right here, it's going to explode when you don't want it to. And this power curve, this pressure curve, this peak pressure curve is going to be in the wrong place. It has to be after TDC, and you're juggling a lot of balls to make that happen when you get up in these ranges here. The easy button disappears off the chart when you get up to 12 to 1, 13 to 1, 14 to 1, because we are at the mercy of octane and a guy not putting enough fuel in it, or a guy putting too much time in it. If a guy is really good tuning stock motorcycles and you bring him a 15 to 1 and you want to run the lowest octane gasoline you can get, I wouldn't hire him, because he may know a lot about making a stock engine run good on 91 octane, but you better be careful and find a really good guy, really smart, a pro, a dude that has experience, that knows how to get the air-fuel ratio right at high octane and high compression, not high octane. High compression, you're going to have to go up on the octane. You're going to have to go down on the spark lead, which is the advance or the retard of the spark, and you got to be careful about getting hot. So we have engines out here, Harleys running around, have high compression. They run on low octane gasoline, and they're in the heat of the summertime running around in traffic. Cylinder head temps approaching 300 degrees, 280, 310 degrees. We got oil temperatures 250 degrees, and we are lighting, the gasoline lights off almost before the spark plug fires. And that's when we're going to have this low octane big bomb, and gaskets disappear, and studs break, head bolts break, pistons break, and we end up with big engine problems. Just about run out of time already. Make sure I covered everything. Flame travel, etc. changes. Yep, you want to get your piston to head clearance right. You want to get your dome to chamber clearance right, or if you need a dish top piston with a small chamber, whatever it is, to get the compression ratio. And I cannot tell you right here, right now, which compression ratio is right. People ask me all the time, what compression ratio should I run? You should run the one that you can tune and ride or use or drive wherever you want it to without it spark knocking, without it detonating, and it will make the most power if you use the lowest octane gasoline you can without detonation. I feel like I started the fire today with this because it's very controversial. These are opinions, and I talk really fast, faster than probably I could think, and there's no telling what all I said. I'll probably have to go back and watch it. I really enjoy getting to share this with you guys and study it, read about it, ask me questions. You can PM me, you can email me, george@starracing.com. You can catch me on Facebook PM. I'm on Instagram, George Bryce Star, and of course the Star Racing Facebook page. I usually respond to that stuff every day. And I'm really passionate about what I think I know here, and I love sharing it with you. Tech Talk 126 is in the books. 2021 is in the books. thank you, God, for bringing us together and helping us to live to the next year. If everybody's as blessed as I am, and hopefully so, we will see you next Tuesday in 2022. Good night. Thank you. May God bless y'all.